we had to close that office down, which is 75 Wall Street, which is, a few blocks away from 9 Live. I was actually walking in our building, going up the elevator, and then we heard everything. After the second plane hit, we stayed there. They wouldn't let us get out of the building, and we could feel the impact. So it was real scary. Just getting out of there, getting your mind right, seeing if you still wanted to do this, I had really had to think hard about it. As far as my career, what changed there, everything kind of shifted to disaster recovery, right? Mm-hmm. You got an office in New York, you're mandated to have another office and a certain amount of mileage away in order to recover. Financial institutions, they put all type of restrictions, regulations, compliance around disaster recovery. You got an office in New York, you got to have an office in, close by in New Jersey just for disaster recovery. So my job eventually became, storage.
One of the things we've started to notice with our audience and community for Tech is the New Black is that y'all are really expansive. Y'all are very broad. A lot of our community are people that are completely unaware of what the tech industry is. Some people in our community are familiar with what it is, but they're looking at, okay, should I do a tech boot camp? Should I go to college? Do I have enough transferable skills, experience, networking things, blah, 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 blah. But we've had a extensively growing community of people that have been tuning in. Those of y'all who are very experienced when it comes to the tech industry, you're already working in tech, you are more technical. And many of y'all have been asking for us to bring on guests that have more experience, more knowledge, and have a greater variety of the technical roles in this tech industry. So that speaks to the guest that we have today. Our guest, Dennis Riddick, is someone who has been in the tech industry for quite some time. I actually don't know his age, but I know that he got in the industry at 18 years old, which is a really big deal. So definitely looking forward to allowing y'all to basically just tune into our conversation as he's unpacking a lot of his experiences, his knowledge, his wealth of knowledge and wealth of experiences in this industry. So Dennis, bro, thank you so much for being on here for Tech is the New Black.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I like what you're doing here, and I appreciate being a guest. So
yeah,
absolutely, man.
Yeah, definitely, dude. You came suited and booted with the dress jacket, dress coat.
We in Atlanta. I had to step it up a little bit. I'm not from here. So.
Where you from?
I'm from a small town, Allentown, Pennsylvania. That's at it's north of Philadelphia, like towards the Poconos, that area.
Okay.
But
so not West Philadelphia, born and raised, but North Philadelphia, born and raised.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. All right, yo, we rock with it. Yeah, man. So bro, let's go ahead and jump into it. So I mean, looking here, man, you JP Morgan Chase, Dell Technologies, NetApp, a plethora of others. I looked on your LinkedIn and I was like, yo, this guy has done a lot at a lot of different places in tech. So man, please tell us how did you get in the industry at 18 years old? Right.
So this goes back to 1991. I got a Commodore 64 computer for Christmas.
A what?
Commodore 64. Y'all gonna have to Google that.
So not Nintendo 64.
Not Nintendo.
Commodore 64.
Commodore 64. They had a Commodore 64 128.
Okay.
So I got started early.
Yeah.
And I just locked in. I was playing a lot of video games, things like that, and then I end up, using BASIC, started making my own games, right?
Yeah.
And this is way back when you had the cartridges, the floppy drives, right? So,
I'm noticing a pattern today. I feel like is this the third person that mentioned video games and how that's lit? Yeah. Like, there's something in the sauce. Look, for those of y'all who have kids, and your kids playing video games, don't tell them to get off the video games. Show them how to make their own games, or give them something out there. Show them how to make their own game, or hack games, or something, because y'all can end up like our guest here, Dennis. But go ahead.
Yeah. So that's that's where I started. In high school. We didn't really have computer classes. I took a couple of typing classes and, they came to me like, you want to get involved with computers? And I was like, yeah, definitely. So since then, once I graduated high school, I actually started working at a local college, Northampton Community College, basically just fixing computers, doing it for free. I didn't know, that to get paid for it, but, it was just, I went to school there, I ended up playing basketball there, community college, but, I got involved with basically fixing everything, fixing all their computers.
Yeah.
I left there, went to another college. Basically, it was a hands-on type of deal where, we're just, we learn Linux, we learn Windows, just the basics. And then from there, I actually got a job with a company called Lucent Technologies. They're a spinoff from AT&T.
Okay.
They created the chips for, all the phones, right? So
Okay, so all the chips that are in our cell phones today, Lucid has started that.
yeah, so Lucent Technologies, correct.
Yeah.
And they're, they kind of work with AT&T directly. So there I was pretty much, just fixing computers, same deal. We were backing up a lot of, doing a lot of backup servers. I got involved with like Linux, automating like scripting, Bash shell, Corn shell, those type of things with Linux. From that, basically, I flipped into, that was in Pennsylvania. So after that job, I actually got hired at JP Morgan Chase, downtown Wall Street. Pretty much, I pretty much doubled my salary there, going to New York. I was commuting from Pennsylvania to New York, pretty much on a daily basis. Let me pause there. 9/11 hit. I was directly impacted with that.
You're jumping ahead. We're gonna touch on that.
Right.
We're gonna touch on that.
You got to edit that. Then.
So we're definitely gonna talk about that. But right now, I just really wanted to focus on like just how you got into the industry at that age. Like what? So I know you had mentioned the computer, the you said Comp 64,
Commodore
64. So you did that. Someone has asked you basically for it. They were like, "Yo, would you like to mess around with computers? Like to do this, this program that they were allowing in your school?"
Right.
And so at that young of an age, so after school, what was applying and interviewing like for you?
As far as applying to jobs, I mean, it took a toll on me. I applied to a lot of jobs. I wasn't getting hired.
Yeah.
But it pretty much built up what I needed to know. So it's a process. You don't get hired at every job. Yeah. You interview. For me, it was part of the process. You got to interview a lot of places just to know what they want. Now you go back and study that. Okay, I don't understand. I didn't get the job, but I'm about to go. All these questions I didn't know.
Exactly.
I'm going back to learn this.
Yeah. So you're using the interviews not just to get a job, but even the ones you didn't get a job from, you look at what it was that you were lacking and being like, let me go ahead and make sure that I'm like gaining that knowledge, so I won't be lacking that anymore.
Yep, absolutely. So I used to go on those interviews knowing I probably won't get the interview, but I want to get the knowledge of the interview process.
Yeah, you mean don't get the job, but you're going into the interviews thinking like, okay. Yo, that's incredibly valuable because, I always tell people, first of all, the majority of companies you apply to, especially if you're new, you're entry level, the majority of companies you apply to, you're not even going to hear back. You're not going to get an interview.
Right.
And then it's like the majority of interviews you do, you're not going to get the job. And I think so many people see the not getting a job from an interview as a loss or a waste of time. But you're saying, no, it's not. You're saying it's an opportunity for you to like learn more about the market, learn more about what they're looking for.
Right.
Go back, learn that, so that way I'm better for the next interview.
Correct. And this is going back. We're talking 98, 99, 2000, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't have YouTube. So nowadays it's
and it was gritty back then.
It's gritty. You had to get in the book. Oh. You had to read the big textbook.
Not get it out the mud. You had to get it out the book.
Yes. So if you could look, that's how we learned back there. There was no YouTube. Go on the lab and practice.
No Audible.
No, you had to get in that book and learn it, right? So, but they got it good nowadays.
Yo,
so.
I respect it. Hats off to you. So you were in the industry, but 3 years after being in, 9/11 happened.
Correct.
Were you in New York when that happened?
Yeah, I was 3 blocks away.
Whoa. So So I'm curious because I remember being a kid. I remember like watching it on TV, coming home from school. Right. I was so young, I didn't really understand the impact at the moment. I was seeing the tragedy happen, and I was kind of like shrugged my shoulders, went in back into the room, and it wasn't until as time went by, I was like, oh, this is really a big thing that's rocked our nation.
Right. Absolutely.
And so I ended up joining the military, Marine Corps during the whole Iraq-Afghanistan conflict. And so, but how did that affect? One, how did that affect you emotionally, psychologically? And two, how did that affect your work and your role?
Correct. So emotionally, I'll answer that first. Basically, it took a toll on me. We actually worked from home out of the office for a year after that.
Man, that was way back before working from home was even
that was the original work from home. So
whoa,
yeah, we actually had we had to close that office down, which is 75 Wall Street, which is a few blocks away from 9/11. I was actually walking in our building, going up the elevator, and then we heard everything. They locked us in the building until after the second plane hit. We stayed there. They wouldn't let us get out of the building. The building shaking. We could feel the impact. So it was real scary.
Whoa.
Absolutely. So just getting out of there, getting your mind right, seeing if you still wanted to do this, I had really had to think hard about it, going back into the office. As far as my career, what changed there, everything kind of shifted to disaster recovery, right? Mm-hmm. You got an office in New York, you're mandated to have another office and a certain amount of mileage away in order to recover. Financial institutions, they put all type of restrictions, regulations, compliance around disaster recovery. You got an office in New York, you got to have an office in, close by in New Jersey, just for disaster recovery. So my job eventually became, storage, mm-hmm. backup, storage, recovery, RPOs,
mm-hmm. So with storage, I saw that I saw just one of the roles that I saw was data storage.
Right.
Like what type of role is that in tech? Like, 'cause I understand like data being stored.
Yes.
But what is a job that entails data storage?
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what I want to bring to the table here, because I saw all out of your interviews.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing, storage data, which is a key piece. Data's everything.
It is, yeah.
Data's everything. I mean, network's everything, security's everything. But at the end of the day, if you can't store that data and access that data within split, millisecond time, you don't have a good application. That application, the storage basically controls everything. Mm-hmm. That's where you're storing your data. So where my job is, me starting out as data, you want to see, how long, you need fast access to storage, especially financial applications, anything to do with, now it evolved the more internet, applications, right? So you have anything, applications on your phone, right? That stores data. Facebook, your pictures you upload that picture to Facebook, to a server.
Yeah.
That needs to get replicated to a different server, and it needs to be accessed quickly.
Yeah.
You click on that picture, you want it to come up right away. That lives on storage.
Yeah. So I'm familiar with, so obviously a lot of people hear storage and it's like, okay, there's the storage that's on your direct device.
Right.
Then of course there's storage that you can put maybe in like some type of like file or something that holds storage, but we're talking about like big storage.
Right.
So we're familiar with AWS, Azure, and what's the other one? It's escaping me right now. AWS,
you got
Azure,
Google.
and Google.
GCP,
yeah, thank you.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. So when you're speaking about data storage, I guess how does it relate to those cloud platforms?
Right. So initially, storage is just you have a storage server, like a NAS.
Physical things,
right? So it's like a mainframe, right? But it's filled with drives. You access that through fiber channel or network, which is NAS, and then you have SAN. So basically, the difference from a storage array to cloud storage is kind of the same deal. Like you have a cloud, even though it's cloud, you have a data center, right? Yeah. You have a data center, you have storage in that data center that you're serving to AWS application, EC2 instances, anything that needs to access storage. You need to back it up, things like that. That's the same thing. Like they say cloud, but I've worked for Equinix. They're a cloud provider. They've been since forever, right? Technically, they're a cloud. There's they're hosting storage, or they're hosting servers in your network devices. That's the cloud. You're just renting it from them. Nowadays, you have AWS, which has tremendous data centers. You have Azure, Microsoft. They have tremendous data centers. They store everything there, and then they, right now it's just more applications, things like that need to access it, and they have their own regulations, things like that. You have government regulations. You have HIPAA, healthcare. So you have to comply with all their applications in order to host servers in the cloud.
Yeah.
So that's really only big difference from storage, on-prem opposed to in the cloud storage, like an S3, S3 bucket.
Hey y'all, we have some incredible news, and I'm super excited to finally announce our private tech community. Yes, you heard that right. a private tech community exclusively for you all who want more than just the podcast. You want more than just the FAQs. You want to talk with tech recruiters. You want to talk with hiring managers. You want to talk with coaches. You want to talk with people that can help with editing and rewriting your resume. Maybe you're somebody where you just want to be a part of a community where we're talking about updates of what's happening in the software industry. Y'all, this community that we've launched is also going to involve a Discord where we're going to be talking about updates in tech. We're going to be talking about companies that are hiring. We're going to be talking about upcoming tech events. So that way you don't have to miss any of the gems that I know, but not even just what I know, but the gems that friends of mine that are also in the tech industry know as well. So if you want to be a part of that community, go ahead and sign up so that way you can join us. We have a few different tiers. Ultimately, it's all tuned in for you. Oh, and last thing, also within this community, we're going to be streaming all of our interviews with our podcast guests. So instead of you having to wait months to watch the videos later on, you'll actually be able to watch the interviews in real time and ask your live questions to those guests. So make sure you join our tech community. So we talked about how I want to because I really want to kind of dive in more on what happened with 9/11. So obviously we know the event that took place.
Right.
Did that have any effect, aside from the work from home, did that have any effect in terms of business structure or other things when it came to the tech companies or tech? Because again, at my age, I wasn't able to see what happened. I was able to see what the pandemic, how that rocked the nation. I mean, that rocked the world, but I was able to see how that rocked the nation and how that transformed the tech industry and work. And not just work, but just the entire market. It shifted everything to where people stopped wanting to work. So then it became a employee market.
Right.
And so I guess what impact shifts did it cause aside from the temporary work from home? Was there something else that took place during that?
Well, I mean, from a business aspect, I mean, like I said earlier, you had a lot of compliance regulations.
Yeah.
So a lot of security regulations. Everything had to be encrypted, in flight. Like if you have an application that needs to access a database, all that data that you're inputting into an application, database server, all that data needs to be encrypted. It needs to be backed up. You have recovery time objectives. If the application's unavailable, you need to be able to have it. There's certain applications where it's 99.9% uptime.
Yeah.
Right. So those are some of the things that came out of 9/11 as far as accessing data, when's it available, how's it available, and then pretty much just working with, the compliance, issues, right? You definitely have to be able to access that data in a certain period of time, if you lost a data center or if you lost your application.
Man, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, because, one, people don't realize, so everyone's familiar with Amazon. And talking about just the value of data, people don't realize that AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, they're a sister company to Amazon. AWS is Amazon's biggest moneymaker. AWS makes more money than Amazon's store. Everyone knows about Amazon's store, but their real money isn't that B2C. Their real money is that B2B with their cloud. Right. And so I'm pretty sure it's pretty similar. I can't speak exactly in that same level of comparison, but I'm pretty sure numbers wise, it's similar with Azure, with GSP. And so it's like, man, these are really big deals. And it's like, we ask questions, okay, well, why is data so valuable?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, AWS, that's huge. I mean, Microsoft Azure is catching up, but I think AWS pretty much has a stronghold on the cloud industry. Yeah. I mean, I'm certified. I have 3 certifications in Azure. AWS. I have 5 in Azure. So I have cybersecurity, I have architect, and then I have the professional for AWS. So I kind of know the difference. I did it that way. Some people say, okay, well, you should just focus on one to get certified, right? My thing is, let me focus on both so I know the difference when it comes to, some justification around what the business needs of this company that we're trying to bring on board to the cloud. So now I know the differences from Azure and AWS. I can better justify what their needs are, and that's how I kind of looked at it a little bit. I mean, the certifications are you know, I'm old school. Certifications don't mean too much, you know, when you got 20 years experience, right?
Exactly.
But now it's like, okay, well, you got certifications. Okay, well, you kind of know what you're doing. Even though the experience, I feel like experience, you know,
experience definitely trumps it.
Experience trumps it, but it definitely shows that you're willing to go out and learn this, you know, this tool, whatever it is. You know, you could be a CCNA, you could be AWS, Azure, architect, engineer. There's so many different things. Like you could pre-sales.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of pre-sales work for Dell EMC.
Okay.
You know, I did, and there's, you know, obviously a storage company.
Yeah.
They took off, you know, in the early 90s, 2000s. When 9/11 hit, because they're a huge disaster recovery company, right? Yeah. You know, if you're buying storage here at one data center, now you all of a sudden after 9/11 you got to buy double that. So their pre-sales took off. Like those sales guys, you know, they're living good. But I used to come on, you know, really didn't have to do too much. You know, we got, you know, it's already sold that you have to be compliant or you'll get, you know, fined. Right. So especially in the financial, you know, healthcare industry. So, and then my thing is, you know, I instead of working for tech companies, I kind of work more, you know, for MSPs, right? Because you're not dedicated. So you say you work for Microsoft.
Yeah.
You're selling all Microsoft products, right?
Yeah.
Now MSP, you could sell Microsoft, you could sell Linux, you could sell Dell, EMC, you know, all these different products. So you're not
boxed in.
You're not boxed in one app. Yeah, you're not. So it's
that's beautiful because then I mean that I'm sure that increases the volume of actual sales, because now if someone's like, oh yeah, I don't want that Microsoft product, it's like, cool, we got something with, I think you mentioned Linux. Correct. It's like, oh, we don't want that. It's like, cool, we have this. So it's like it allows you to like capture people that might not want something from one company, but they prefer the product or tech from another.
Correct.
Yeah,
absolutely. So
that's fire. So speaking of, you worked at IBM as well.
That's the long story.
Yeah.
But we got time.
We're gonna talk about it. Yeah. So
actually, not long. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I definitely want to talk about it. I mean, IBM is one of the legendary like legacy tech companies. Right. They're roughly about 100 years old, and obviously, when they started, it was something different. They had to evolve into something different because 100 years ago, tech was not as we know it today. I mean, 30 years ago, tech wasn't the way that it looks today. And so, but they were one of the companies there alongside like with Apple that were really back in like I think the 70s and the 80s that were really creating the foundation of what we know of today as the tech industry, even when it was just hardware, mainly hardware. So when did you get in at IBM, and what was that like there?
So story. So IBM, I was actually a contractor.
Okay.
Through them initially. So initially I was a contractor with Lucent. Lucent was partnered with IBM. So they actually took me away from Lucent. So I started working for IBM. They
snatched you up. They snatched me up
from them. So basically, and then after that project, after the JP Morgan project, I was JP Morgan for 3 years. I started working for IBM. I worked for IBM just on their storage products, you know, mainframes. They're coming a lot of businesses coming off the mainframe, going to high end servers, you know, with data storage behind it. So basically, they hired me. I was there 5 years, and they basically retired me. So I got a pension from them.
Wait, so hold up. So
I retired when I was 28.
You were 28.
Technically, right. So.
Okay. You retired with a pension too, correct?
Correct.
So how the flip did you retire from IBM at 28 with a pension?
The way they structured it, so they were moving. So the way they were working directly with JP Morgan, I started working for IBM at JP Morgan. Then they put me on other projects. So I was flying all over the U.S., doing projects, installs, things like that. They ended up getting rid of that business, and they gave me a package to leave IBM instead of going back to JP Morgan.
Oh, wow.
So, and that was around like the Y2K, the Y2K boom was beautiful. Yeah. So I ended up retiring from IBM, got a pension, then, I ended up buying a bar.
Oh, okay.
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
So I got into the bar business. but we'll keep it technical, right? I still worked, I still was in the industry. That was just something I did on the side, right? I had an opportunity to buy a bar. I actually bought that, and it went pretty well for a couple of years. I was just young, you learn from your mistakes. I had a bar when I was 26, so it's like.
Shoot. If you spend enough time at the bar, you might as well own one.
Yeah, that's true. But that's what happened. So.
Yo, that's incredible, actually.
Hey, what's good? I'm Eric Bates, video producer and strategist here at Tech is the New Black. And if you're interested in what our guest is talking about and want to do data analytics, software development, or cybersecurity, we need you to go ahead and check out Pivot Tech. They're a highly awarded virtual tech bootcamp that offers mentorship and career placement. And we've partnered with them to offer our audience a discount of up to $300 off. That's right, $300. So use the referral code Tech is the New Black and keep us posted on your journey.
Man, look, I hope those of y'all in the Patreon community are gaining some value from this. Definitely make sure y'all tap in with his LinkedIn, kind of check him out in preparation for the questions that you might have for him. So you bought a bar, you were still working in the industry. Mm-hmm. So I guess, and I'm going to sound ignorant asking this question, but you got to ask it. So when you retire, I guess in my head, when I hear, okay, someone retired,
right,
I'm thinking, okay, so they left an industry to do something else.
Right.
But they more so retired you, meaning that they gave you a package that essentially would have been a retirement package. But because you were so young, you're like, well, I'm going to keep working.
Right.
So
absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. So I'll get the full package, the full pension when I'm 65, right?
Yeah.
I'll get
so that's how that works.
Right. So I'll get the remainder of the whole pension at, retirement age.
Oh, that's
it's either
fire.
60 or 65. I have to look into it. It's through Fidelity.
Yeah. You was like, man, that's a whole lot of years between 28 and then. So I figure it out when I get older.
Exactly. So I ain't even, not even really looking into it, but yeah.
Hey, that's nice. You already got a retirement package. No matter what you do, you got one waiting on you.
Right.
Must be nice.
got in there early, so
yeah. So
got lucky.
So you got that set up for you when you're 65. How old are you now?
I'm 47.
Okay, 47. Okay, yeah, you got a minute. Yeah, you got a good minute.
Yeah.
So and man, dang. So between 28. So what's been happening between 28 and 47 aside from the bar?
Right.
That's it's something in this liquor. Song popped in my head. But aside from the bar,
right.
What's tech-wise, what have you been doing between 28 and now?
Right. So since then, it's been around converged infrastructure, which converged infrastructure is storage, compute, and networking in one rack. Right?
Storage, compute, networking in one rack.
Right. So it's basically, instead of going out and buy servers, storage, and the network equipment, it's all in the converged infrastructure in one unit.
Yeah.
One rack unit. So we started doing that early, probably like 2012, for a company called Dell. They had a couple products,
Y'all might or might not have heard of Dell. It's a company. It's a company called Dell.
It was EMC, and then Dell purchased the EMC.
Okay, cool.
Right. So EMC's originally created the product. It's called V-Block. So they essentially had, instead of you going out and purchasing all these support contracts through 3 different companies, you would go to Cisco, you would go to IBM, to buy your servers. Then you would go to Dell, EMC, HP, Hitachi, the big ones, NetApp. Instead of have to purchase them separately, have to purchase everything separate, they converge everything into one unit, right? So save a lot of time, money. You don't have to make 3 different support calls when you have an issue. And then, that kind of, change the game, know. From there, you're basically creating cloud infrastructure. That's a cloud. That's what Microsoft does. They have converged infrastructure products in their data centers. So they don't buy a bunch of separate units. They'll have one, like, for instance, the one in NetApp is called a FlexPod.
Okay.
Right. So FlexPod has Cisco, it has storage, and then you have network and everything together. So you're not purchasing different support bundles.
Yeah.
Right. So
with all the time you've been in the industry, man, what are some different things you've done in terms of networking in the space that you think people could really gain value from?
For me, I did a lot of different jobs. I was pretty much what you call a job hopper.
Yeah.
So I would learn something. I would go into a project. I would learn something there, try to implement that to my next next job or whatever I was going to do, next project. Mm-hmm. So just me, I'm a question asker. I used to go up to the network guys and how do you do this, how you do that. They used to get sick of me. Some of them liked it.
That's funny.
Some tech guys back then, the engineers, they just want to sit back on their computer.
Oh, yeah.
Do their work. They're not good communicators, but they could get the job done, right? Me, I'm going to ask regardless because I want to learn. I know I'm trying to move on. I'm trying to move up.
Yeah.
And this is early. You got to ask questions. You got to dig in. Once you get in, for the young guys out there, once you get in, you get your help desk job. You go talk to that network guy, the server guy. You look at, the support tickets. Even though the ticket's not yours, you go look at those support tickets, figure out what the resolution was for the support tickets. The issue was the resolution. This is how you gain knowledge. You go through them tickets. That's what I did. I used to go through tickets. Oh, how they fix this? You know what I mean? And then I would go to the ticket owner, ask him questions. How'd you figure this out? You know what I mean? They can say no. We this is out your realm.
Yeah.
Or they can say okay, well yeah, this is how we did it, Dennis. And I met some good guys that way. And then just dealing with different VARs. You ask questions. What are some of the things you're seeing out there in the industry? What are some of the pain points? Things like that. Just to justify back to your business. Okay, we're starting to see certain issues. We know a product out there. This vendor could help out with this solution.
Yeah.
Right. That's for me. That's I just when I was in the industry like that, in the beginning, I used to just ask a lot of questions. Vendors used to come on site. I try to get involved, even though I wasn't supposed to be involved. I would get involved with that. So I kind of got myself into trouble a couple of times, but it was worth it, right? So.
So man, bro, you've done so much in the space. And one of the things I appreciate about a guest like you is that you have a wealth of knowledge, and it's a lot of resources that people really should glean from and learn from. Because a lot of people just want to get in the industry. A lot of people just want to scale, but they don't realize the value of kind of operating like yourself where because again, there's a difference between someone who job hops because they're just trying to jump company to company to get more money, which is cool.
Right.
But you didn't just do that. You also were absorbing knowledge and experience from each company, being very strategic about it, about what you were learning, and then making sure that, like you mentioned, when you went to another company, that you implemented that to allow yourself to stand out.
Correct.
And I mean, even now with all of your time in the industry, I mean, you've been in the industry at this point about almost 30 years, going on 30 years almost.
Yep.
It's like you still have this mentality of, I mean, shoot, you're getting certification. You already have experience, but you still have that mentality to, okay, what more can I acquire? What more can I gain?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I'm always telling the community is, hey, y'all, this is not an industry where you just are in it for a few years and you know everything.
Right.
It's like you have to have a student mentality. You need to be learning. Like whether you're a customer facing role or back end role, you have to have some type of work ethic to where you're fine with constantly learning because even aside from just you working at different companies, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, even if you're staying at one company, the industry is constantly evolving. The technology is constantly evolving.
Right.
And if you're not hip to it, then the same way technology replaces technology, you can be replaced by someone who is getting hip to the new things.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and that's, I always stress that. I stress the fact that, even though you're now in the industry, you still want to be able to learn, from different people. You want to learn different technologies around that. Create your own projects, right? You got an issue with something. Try to script that out, automate it. If you're doing something over and over again, create a script for that. That way, you're automating, you're saving yourself time, right? For me, I used to create my own projects. Example, when I was learning VMware, which is basically when we started moving servers to virtualized servers, which is VMware. So what I did is I started, I just started, learning VMware. And the industry took a strong hold on that. Now everything's virtualized, right? Yeah. Instead of having 20 servers, you have one servers with these 20 virtual servers.
Whoa! So they switched from. Wait, hold up! I gotta capture this.
Yeah.
So they switched from 20 servers all the way down to one server.
Yes, and you could scale way more. You could probably have 200 servers. So the problem was they're buying all these servers, these storage. You're spending all this money,
Yeah.
and you're not utilizing it, right?
Yeah.
So you might have 10
I
servers.
heard that was happening where companies were buying up a lot of servers thinking it was
Right.
gonna like, oh wow, we got all these servers, but then they weren't even needing all of them.
Right. So now what you're doing is you have, say you got 200 servers, and you're only 15 of them are using 10% utilization, which is CPU resources, memory, things like that. You're not even hitting 50% on those utilization for those servers.
Yeah.
So now you're running performance reports, utilization reports, and now you'll be able to move that to one server, which is the VMware server.
Yeah.
Right. So now you're virtualizing everything. And
So-
that's
Man, that's wild. So I'm gonna go ahead. I have one last question. I want to allow the Patreon community to any questions that y'all might have to make sure that you have them prepared for Dennis while I'm asking and he's answering this question. So, man, in all your time in the industry, you've scaled a lot. You've experienced a variety of different roles, a variety of different companies. Like, what is something you see that's happening in the market today with people that are working in tech and people that are trying to be at the level that you're at?
Right.
Do you feel that they're missing out on? Like, what's some key pieces that you think would be valuable for people to know?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, from where I came from, I think right now it's a great time to get into tech because you have so many resources. You have YouTube, you have boot camps, you have all these things. I mean, the only thing I really think is missing is collaboration, better collaboration. Like you have the Patreon, you have those things, but I just feel like, one-on-ones, were valuable, right?
Yeah.
Being able to meet people, seeing them, things like that. I think that's where we're missing. Even though, the world's going virtual, especially after, COVID, everybody got pushed at home, working from home. So that kind of hurt the industry because you're not, it hurt it and it helped it, right? So now we're working from home, we're working more, we're getting more done at home, right? For me, I mean, I get more done instead of have to commute for 2 hours, 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, that helped in that sense. But as far as, collaboration with people, I think that kind of, it took a step back there, and you can learn from, like, I learned from a lot of people, over the years. And I feel like, you got value that I don't have, right? Vice versa. So I think that's what's hurting right now. But at the end of the day, we got more opportunities. We definitely have more opportunities. Our people, me growing up, it was NBA, NFL, and if you wasn't doing that, you wasn't making no money.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the ones that got in early. I felt like I made some good money. It's really not about the money. It's just more opportunities that I can help my people out with.
Yeah. The money's nice too, though.
Yeah, the money's great. You all in it for the money. The money is good.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
In this industry, they're like, oh, technical guy uses they don't make no money. But it's starting to get out there.
Oh, they know now.
They starting to know.
They know now.
But just coming in, it's like, a lot of people didn't respect the technical guys. Right.
They putting some respect on their name now.
Absolutely.